Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the Ted Show. Been looking forward to spending time with my friend, Seminole County Sheriff Dennis Lemma. He's here back with us today on the Ted Show. We're going to talk about all the amazing things that are going on in Seminole County, get an update from Sheriff Lemma. I was just in that office that you see behind Sheriff Lemma. Recently got to sit at the big boy desk, as I called it that day. But huge thanks to his team, Brian, Drita, and everyone for helping us out. We were there to celebrate National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And so big shout out to you, Sheriff Lemma, and your team. Welcome back. How are you today?
Well, I am wonderful. Thank you for having me back, Ted. And sorry I missed you when you were by the office to sit behind the big desk. But interestingly, 5 of the 10 sheriffs in the history of Seminole County actually worked behind this desk. So this
That's
desk has
amazing.
been around for a good number of years.
Lots. It's your office is beautiful. I can feel it's a positive office, and I meant to tell Brian that if I didn't tell him, but if you get a chance, Sheriff Lemma and his team are absolutely amazing human beings, and it's such a pleasure to work with them. Dennis, Sheriff Lemma, and I sit on, or at least work with, Base Camp Children's Cancer Foundation together. And so it's just always an honor to have you on. But you all are doing amazing things, Sheriff Lemma. But before we get into that, tell them a little bit about you. People love maybe who just have seen your name but don't know any details and kind of how you got to where you're at.
Well, thank you. So Dennis Lemma, husband, my wife Diana works in policing as well. We've been married and have a wonderful family, 2 boys. My oldest is 18 and working at Chick-fil-A and going to college on the side, and then my youngest is 14. So they've been raised around policing, specifically the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, of course, their entire life. I've spent 30 years here at the office. Actually started in 1992 as a correctional officer, as we would call it at the time, and over a 30-year career, essentially worked in every position that we have at the office, ascended through the ranks of detective after working as a deputy sheriff, and then a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain, a major, and I was chief deputy before becoming the 10th sheriff in Seminole County's history, and now I'm in my second term as our sheriff here in Seminole.
Tell me, we were talking before we went live about the last time you were on the show. There was a lot of unrest in the country, COVID. We had a lot of unrest just going on. And I just love you give this, you're very calm when you talk to people. And I think that's so important for a leader, especially for a sheriff. Seminole County has its own brand of amazing things going on. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is to talk about that, because I think we don't learn enough about the behind the scenes and the projects that you all work on. We just know you as the person who might give me a ticket, or we don't think about all of the impact that you're making based on the programs and that you are developing behind the scenes. So tell us a little bit about what's going on in Seminole County.
Yeah, Ted, and thank you for having me on and providing this opportunity to share with your viewers a little bit of the inside kind of information that you won't see in a 3-minute video of a local news organization. I mean, there's a lot going on here. First, we'll start with, the unrest that we experienced across our country. You had, at one hand, the death of George Floyd that created a rippling effect across the country. And then, of course, we had COVID. But one of the things that I said, and I reminded people, is although you have these anti-policing segments in certain pockets across the country, quite frankly, we've never experienced that here in Seminole County and broadly across the state of Florida. And that is so incredibly important for the men and women who make it their career passion to serve others. They come into this business knowing that they're never going to get rich. They're probably never going to become famous, but at the same time, they're driven to the profession because they want to help others and they would like to be appreciated in the process.
Yes.
So what our citizens do here in Central Florida, Seminole County, and across the state of Florida as a whole is they appreciate their first responders, their military professionals, their EMS and firefighters, as well as their police officers and their deputy sheriffs. So for that, we're incredibly grateful. When COVID hit, we scrambled, we did all that we can possibly do. But what we're experiencing now is I call the unintended consequences of COVID. People sheltered in place, they wore a mask, but you can only imagine, Ted, for a moment, that if you were addicted to a substance before COVID, you only turned back to your substance of choice at a greater frequency than before if you lost a loved one and could not be by their side. If you were sheltering in place and spent 2 years in front of a computer instead of socially interacting with people. So now we're picking up all of the pieces on a crisis in a state of emergency that was going on well before COVID, and that's unprecedented overdoses combined with the collateral responsibility of mental health crisis with that. And many ask, they say, well, as a sheriff, why are you so dug in on these topics? And I tell them that crime is a symptom of another problem.
Agreed.
I've never met in my 30-year career somebody who is born, raised with the desire to spend the rest of their life in prison and victimize other people. It's typically something that goes wrong along the way. And substance use and mental health are two of the three top categories that will lead to that. Poor parenting is the other.
Agreed. And I think it's interesting because, they launched the National 988 for mental health this year. I think people are becoming, it's a stigma. The difficulty with mental health, especially, is there's a stigma there. People either feel like it's a weakness or they don't know they don't believe that the services are there. They don't have the resources to figure it out. And so leaders I just applaud leaders like you and like your team who come in and try to find a solution to that, because talk about why, from a sheriff's perspective, from a law enforcement perspective, why you'd get into the mental health part of it versus just the arresting and getting them into prison if they've committed a crime.
Yeah. So one global reason is people who suffer from untreated mental health conditions present the most significant threat and risk to themselves, to other citizens, and to police professionals across this country. We've had 2 deputy sheriffs killed in the line of duty for people who suffer from a mental health condition. But Ted, to your point, our country has scared the hell out of people when it comes to a lack of understanding of mental health. Even back to the early days with the creation of the term insane asylum. Now, insane asylum are words by definition used as a safe haven and a place of protection, a sanctuary of protection. But when I say insane asylum, for most Americans that are not experiencing mental health, it sounds very eerie. Like when you look at, horror movies in the 2023 season, or when Halloween comes up, I promise you, one of the major themes associated with haunted houses and frightening movies and frightening shows will deal with mental health conditions. And unlike a physical health problem where if we're in a restaurant, we're at work, somebody falls down, they have a difficult time breathing, they're holding their chest, we all stop what we're doing. We run over them and render aid to the best of our ability and call 911. But if somebody's health condition is a condition of the mind and not the other parts of the body, in many cases, we turn our heads the other way. We don't want trouble, and we avoid things that we are less familiar with. And I think that we can change that. And I think that here in Seminole County, we are leading the charge across the state and nation when it comes to a new narrative to break the stereotypes and provide treatment and services.
And that takes a lot of initiative and planning. And obviously, it all probably takes a lot of training for your law enforcement family, because the it's very specific where, and you can't obviously conquer everything, but knowing the signs and being able to figure out ways to do it instead, address it, I mean, instead of traditional ways of addressing it. That takes a lot of effort on your part. You've got initiatives going on, and you've had them, right, in the sheriff's department.
So I think I may have mentioned it to you the last time that I was on, but we created a comprehensive strategy to combat substance use disorder in Seminole County. But we did it in partnership with wonderful organizations like Advent Health, Walmart, who continuously gives us annual funding to support our initiatives. Our Board of County Commissioners came together, but we had a building across from our correctional facility that occupied our county probation officers that worked for our office. And when COVID hit, I said, we're going to move this entire team to a remote working environment. And almost immediately after we did that, Ted, I realized that they became more effective, more productive when they didn't have to spend a lot of their time driving to and from the office and processing paperwork there and et cetera. So what I realized is I was never going to bring them back, that we provided office space for them to work and time for them to come together as a team. But I reached out to Advent Health, particularly the CEO, Tim Cook, and said, would you be willing to partner with us, the county commission, myself, to create the first of its kind Hope and Healing Center at this location? And they did. And it's been just an absolute blessing to treat all people on their journey towards recovery, uninsured, underinsured, family members that are struggling with a family member can just walk right in there and receive help, resources, and treatment. And a lot of it is funded with private funds as well, businesses coming in. So it lightens the burden on our tax dollar. That was the first step. The second step, since we've spoken last, is I realized that you cannot treat substance use disorder, which is unprecedented numbers, by the way, without addressing the co-occurring, co-present mental health condition that goes along with that. And in most areas across the country, they're doing that, but they're doing it in separate spaces. They're like treating substance use first and then treating mental health. It has to occur concurrently. So I had asked our county commission and our mayors and managers in Seminole County to give me $9 million of the American Rescue Relief Funds to create the first of its kind mental health receiving facility that will now be located directly across from Advent Hospital on 436 in Altamont Springs. The construction is going on right now, and we're incredibly excited to expand out and provide one-stop shop services, just like we do with the substance use disorder.
So many things come to mind. First of all, the power of the proactivity of getting ahead of, or at least trying to get ahead of, the issues that drive crime or that drive people to commit crimes, and being proactive and getting to the core is very unheard of. When you think of a sheriff's department, when you think of law enforcement being the word, you think punitive. What you all are doing is getting ahead of that. Actually, the way it feels to me, caring about them, getting them the help that they need and getting them the access, which to me is incredibly forward thinking and ahead of the curve, thinking outside the box when it comes to addressing the issues that you see every day. So kudos to you and your team. I think it's amazing anytime. I have a master's degree in healthcare, focus in nonprofits. So I worked in the substance abuse arena in District 7 for a very long time. And what I could tell you is everybody who was in there, it stemmed from some sort of childhood issue, mental health issue, something going on. And we were just at the time regurgitating. The recidivism rate was so high because we weren't addressing the actual problem. We were putting a Band-Aid on it. So kudos to you all. I think it's such a beautiful thing, Sheriff Lemma, that you all are doing. And I think that Seminole County is blessed to have you and your law enforcement team.
Well, you're so kind, Ted. And I will tell you that I think that we're leading in both levels of the spectrum. Like we're giving services in healthcare, whether it's the three forms of medical assisted treatment therapy, whether it's methadone, buprenorphine, or Vivitrol, combined with cognitive behavioral therapy, even inside of our correctional facility, while at the same time, we are shaping Florida law. Our bills got passed, HB 95, that was created here and carried by Representative Plakin and Senator Broder, that makes it easier to prosecute drug dealers when they deal drugs and somebody dies. And in Seminole County, we hover around 40 prosecutions for first-degree murder, more than any other county in the state of Florida. So we're getting the people the help that they need, because I think we all now know the story of big pharma and overprescribing, and many of the realtors experience this too, because people would act like they were shopping for homes, and they weren't actually shopping for homes. They were just going into the medicine cabinets inside the bathrooms, because for many, many years with the overprescribing, our medicine cabinets were filled with these pills. Yes. It's a different environment now, different thing going on, but the mental health crisis is a real crisis, and many people really don't understand what the Baker Act is, or the involuntary admission. Like if you hear somebody that was involuntarily taken into custody in a hospital environment for a mental health condition, I think there's an expectation from the general public that, well, surely the time that you're released, you're going to be okay. And I tell people, look, if you go involuntary in the back of a patrol car to the hospital to be treated, Baker Act means you're going to harm yourself, you're going to harm somebody else. Yes. Let's call that condition crimson red. By the time that you're released, you're only a lighter shade of red. You are still absolutely in crisis, but society thinks that, okay, you're just okay. Like if you and I were having lunch today, Ted, and I said to you, you know, Ted, I think that you would be incredibly proud of me. And you said, why, Dennis? And I said, well, it's been 6 or 7 weeks since the last time I was involuntarily admitted for a mental health condition that rose to the level that I was going to harm myself or harm somebody else. You'd probably ask for the check and say, that does not seem long enough ago for you to be out and not receiving services. We can fix that.
And it's powerful, and the long-term impact that your programs will have in Seminole County and your community, our community as a whole, really. I'm just excited to see that, because it's been a need that's been unmet. And I feel like you all are, like you said, absolutely leading the way. It's exciting. That's one of the reasons why, like, every time you come on, I love the positivity. I love for people to see that you are a human being and that you have feelings and you care, and get rid of some of those crazy stereotypes about our law enforcement. Know that you guys make sacrifices. You guys and gals make sacrifices every single day, and it's just such a beautiful thing to hear somebody speak compassionately about their community like you do. 2 questions before we head out. The first is, like I mentioned earlier, recently it was Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, the National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. What can we do? What can we do as citizens to appreciate you?
You know, Ted, you hit on it before, and for me, it is important for us to change the narrative. So we talk about, heck, we call ourselves law enforcement officers. It's Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. But again, it's not one day, right? It's making the men and women that wear the uniform and serve the community proud to serve, like continuing to receive requests from our children to show up on career day in elementary school and talk about the noble profession of policing. But Ted, you hit on it before, that we overemphasize in this business enforcement. Like I argue that good, effective policing, enforcement is just one component of effective policing. But sometimes when we talk about it, I think that what rises to the mind always when we use the term enforcement is just the authority and the apprehension, right? I mean, the sexiest part about this job, the part that they make movies about, they write best-selling books about, they have television shows and songs about, is the apprehension of the offender. And that is an important part. Sometimes community policing and rehabilitation or rehabilitation starts there. But I think that policing as a whole is what we do. And the appreciation, although nice on Appreciation Day, it tells us we're not forgotten. We're appreciated. I think what goes a long way is the pat on the back in the restaurant, the thumbs up, the simply thank you for your service is much more rewarding to the people called to this profession than even a memorandum or an award that I can bestow upon them for heroic activities. Keep doing that. Our Central Florida community particularly does such a phenomenal job, which allows us to continue to recruit the best of the best. So thank you all for that.
Perfect. And last question, my friend. You're, in my eyes, you're a veteran. You have been a public servant almost your entire career, if not your entire career. So I think of you all as heroes, of course. When I say the word hero to you, though, who's the first person who comes to mind?
So when I think of hero, particularly here in Seminole County, I talk about 6 names that are etched in stone at our memorial monument in front of this building. Their photographs and stories of their heroic actions don our walls as soon as you walk into the sheriff's office building. It's the reason why every day we wear a Roman numeral number 6 to fulfill our commitment to never forget their sacrifice. Those heroes here in Seminole County and across our country are those individuals that have laid down their lives, had their lives sometimes selfishly and unprovoked taken from them. Their service should be commended, should always be remembered, and we try to work hard to do that. We stand on and serve on the shoulders of giants, and I would like to think that the work that we do today carries on their legacy. Those are my heroes.
Beautiful. All right. How do we find out more about you and all the amazing things that Seminole County Sheriff's Department is doing, Dennis?
Please follow us on social media. You know, we've got all the tags and whether it's Facebook, whether you follow me, you follow our organization. There's a lot of behind the scenes information that you'll find on those sites and those web pages, whether it's Twitter or again, Facebook, me personally, or the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. But remain plugged in. Look at some of the community opportunities that we have, like the Community Law Enforcement Academy, if you're so interested and desired, or if you know somebody that wants a career in policing, please tell them come on down to the Seminole County Sheriff's Office and talk to some of our recruiters.
Thank you. Always a joy to have you on. I appreciate your heart. I think what you do, giving back, you and your team, you create an environment at the Seminole County Sheriff's Department that allows that to be perpetuated and given back into the community. So kudos to you. I appreciate you so much, my friend, and thank you for your service. Truly, it means a lot. All right, everybody. Sheriff Dennis Lemma, reach out. You can go to the website or on social media, but get involved. You guys are always asking me, how can I get involved? How can I do more? A lot of people ask me, how can I give back to the men and women who serve? And so you can find that all over social media. Thank you so much, Sheriff Lemma. We'll see you guys.